Charlotte Laws, Gina knows all about Charlotte
yeah.
Laws, is featured in a documentary. It's out on Netflix.
She's we're having two major badass women on the show today.
Yeah, I was watching the doc last night, and
What an unbelievable
I was
piece of
thinking
shit.
if somebody put a picture of me with my shorts down on some internet, my mom wouldn't give two shits.
She wouldn't have thoughts about it.
But not spring to action.
Yeah,
that
Charlotte's
much
awesome.
I will tell you. And learn from the doc, a Valley Girl. All roads are leading to Woodland Hills, Chatsworth, and Owensmouth Boulevard.
That's right.
This week. All right, we'll take a quick break. Be back with Charlotte Laws right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Ace Man, got a couple more entries for the things that sound better than they are category. Waterboarding, having an outstanding charge, and finally, testing positive. Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Charlotte Laws is in studio. She is featured quite prominently in the Netflix doc series, The Most Hated Man on the Internet. We'll get into that. Also has a memoir out, Undercover Debutante. It's available now on wherever you get finer books. Good to see you, Charlotte.
Thanks for having me.
So I was watching the doc last night. I was like, oh, hey, a Valley Girl. I think you're out in the West End somewhere there.
I am. I'm proud of being a Valley girl, too.
And for those who did not see the doc, why don't you kind of walk us through how this whole thing started with you?
Well, my daughter had taken some pictures of herself in her room, over 100 pictures. One of them was topless, and she had no intention of ever showing the topless picture to anyone. Her phone got full, her cell phone got full, so she sent them to her email to save them for herself. And then she was hacked, and then shortly thereafter, her topless picture was uploaded to the most notorious revenge porn website, isanyoneup.com, along with her name, her city, her social media link. And she was at her waitress job. She wanted to be an actress at the time, but she had the obligatory waitress job as well. And so she was told at that job that the picture was there, and she was completely freaked out. The picture was passed about in her workplace for all the employees to see. And she phoned me desperate, feeling violated, humiliated, didn't know what to do. And I had never heard of revenge porn before. And I look at the website and see the pictures and see it was really a horrible site. It was not about pornography. It was about hatred. It was about shaming people. It was about ruining lives. It was called Pure Evil. That was kind of the nickname he gave the site. And Hunter Moore, who ran the site, called himself a professional life ruiner. And so I just decided I got to get that picture down immediately because I know how the internet is, and a nude picture is going to, propagate and proliferate and spread, and it's not going to just go away. So I just kind of got to work. I used to be a private investigator, and I kind of have that type of personality. So I dug into it, and that was kind of how it started.
It's weird how much, they never tell you about it in school, and parents don't really talk about it with their kids. But, I think about, movie, Yuli's Oil.
Wow.
Yeah,
Peter Fonda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yuli's Gold.
That's what I was confused too.
Which was
Lorenzo's
the oil.
oil.
Lorenzo's
Yuli's
Oil.
Gold.
Yes. Whatever the name is, some establishment, some huge medical establishment says your kid can't be cured, and the mom goes into the kitchen and
The hell he
cures them.
can.
I think that's Lorenzo's oil. She was in Sarandon, right?
Yeah.
Her kid had something, and she was kind of spearheading the effort to find the
Lorenzo's
cure.
Oil and Yuli's Gold.
We
We're
gotta
going to
figure-
figure out which one's which. But the point is, the older I get, the realize I just go, just give me a motor. Just give me motivation. I've talked to attorneys, I've talked to doctors. There's plenty of lazy-ass professionals who just go, yeah, we checked, we didn't find anything. It's like, it's the mom that's got a fucking axe to grind, the motivated. And it transcends expertise. The best lawyer you'll ever have is some super souped up mom who's super interested.
Yeah.
Every case that gets called, the cold cases, it's like the crazed mom.
Yeah, the curiosity.
Detectives go home,
Yeah.
they're thinking about something else. It's just, They don't talk about what the motor of the mom and how much can get done with that. And you're obviously a high volume motor person, I'm guessing.
Well, my dad used to call me Motor Mouth. So.
Well, there you
There you
go.
go.
But yeah, I've actually believed that persistence is the key to success too, and I've kind of tried to live my life in accordance with that. And if you just really keep putting a lot of attention and energy into something, you have a pretty good chance of succeeding.
And what's Lorenzo's Oil 92, Nick Nolte and Susan Sarandon, and then Ulysse Gold, Peter Fonda 77, but I still don't know the theme
No.
of
Oh,
each.
Sorry, 97.
97.
Oh, does it say
Ulysse
97?
Gold,
Sorry.
his kid's in jail, and he has to do something. It's been years. Lorenzo Zoil, her son is sick, and she's trying to figure out the cure or some treatment or something. That's the metaphor you were kind of going
Yes. But
Although
either
similar
way, a
themes,
motivated parent.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us the breakdown, Chris. We'll figure it out. So you were that. And I really like, when it comes to motivation, there's parts of me that understand terrorists more than I understand guys like this guy. I really do mean it. Like
It's not a spiritual thing. It's not
I don't get it. It seems like the worst karma in the world. Number one, number two. Why is this pleasurable? What you're doing?
Because he has low self-esteem, and he thinks that tearing other people down is going to build him up. I mean, that is really, and he's a misogynist.
I think guys
He
like
hates
that have
people.
super high self-esteem. Because I'd love to do it, but my self-esteem's too low. What business do I have
It sounds
ruining
like
people's lives?
it sounds like he, without realizing it, pioneered the incel movement. You know, like if he's not really getting any or whatever, he's going to punish the girls in general because he's been rejected.
Ulysse Gold is about a reclusive beekeeper who pulls his dysfunctional family back together, but not without having a fight with his son.
Okay.
And he's never apologized. He says the only thing he would have done different is go 10 times harder. That's what he says right now.
Yuli?
No, 100 more.
Well, what are the legal ramifications of what he's done?
Well, now it's illegal. Luckily, you know,
Yeah, they passed
after
it.
after I got my pictures of my daughter down, then I started trying to help the other victims because I reached out and contacted all these other victims and then tried to get the website down. And we got the website down with the help of the FBI eventually. And then I started working to try to get laws. And we have laws in 48 states now. So it actually is illegal. But it's not, we don't have a federal law, unfortunately. We've tried and it keeps getting blocked. But
Who would block it?
the ACLU is the
Enthusiasts.
biggest opponent. They were fighting me in California as well because they believe that nude pictures are of ordinary people is free speech.
Oh my God.
And I am a huge proponent of free speech.
Aren't the
but
civil
not-
liberties being violated of the
Right.
people whose pictures are being put up without their permission?
Well, I think it's a privacy issue, and I don't understand how that contributes to the marketplace of ideas when you have a nude picture of an ordinary person. I don't understand that. So I do feel that it should be an exception to the First Amendment, just like child pornography and incitement and the
What
others.
the fuck happened to the ACLU?
Yeah,
You know, they've gone downhill.
They
They were so
went
great like
insane.
30, 40 years ago, and now it's like issue after issue. They're on the wrong side of the issue. I don't know what's the matter with them.
They got politicized, but this isn't
Yeah.
political, although everything gets pushed into some sort of political funnel at some
Right.
point. But what is political about this?
Well, 10 years ago was when all of this started, and the Democrats were the ones who were fighting us on this initially. And I think it
Oh,
was
that's where the ACLU
well,
comes in?
I think the Democrats were doing it because they were siding with the ACLU. I think they wanted to, because they're kind of together, you know, and they wanted to make the ACLU happy. And I think that's why that started out that way. So the Republicans were helping us to get a law in place. And then eventually the Democrats came on board, and now the Democrats are equally involved in this issue. Jackie Spear of California is the one who's brought forward the federal law on multiple occasions. So, yeah, but yeah, and the other people who've been fighting it, when I was doing it, it was called realignment in California, which means that the politicians didn't want additional people in prison because there were too many, and so therefore they didn't want it to be a felony.
Sure.
And on the federal level, there's something similar in that there's certain people in the progressive side of the Democratic Party who are fighting a federal law because they believe in defund the police and they don't want more people in prison. So it's kind of the same thing on a federal level that we're also fighting. So the same enemies of, getting something passed.
The thing about people in prison, which we're approaching it, the problem solving is nuts. It's like, well, the black and the brown kids aren't performing in mathematics tests. Okay, then we have to lower. It's like saying the car cannot travel at freeway speeds. It's not, well, then break the glass in the speedometer and take the dial and turn it to 65. And it's like,
problem solved.
we're still going 35 and we haven't fucking addressed the problem. Like, too many people in prison, I don't like that notion, but I'm comfortable with 86% of the population in prison if, in fact, they're doing felonious things and hurting people and endangering people. Then that's what it'll be. Then we need to make more room in prison. It can't just be we have a policy where we don't want to put people.
Add a story.
They have they had that guy in New York swinging a hatchet around, busting up a McDonald's. It's like, that guy's a maniac who carries a fucking hatchet with him. He doesn't need to be out that day.
Yeah.
He can be in, and you can go, well, we have too many people in there. Well, there's a lot of people in the McDonald's,
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
But there are people who, do drugs and prostitution. I mean, there are people in prison for things that don't necessarily hurt others.
I agree, and I've never, if it's a consensual crime or what have you, then so be it. I just don't like the concept of we're going to lower the
We
population.
can't do it. Yeah.
So what is your first step on your journey as a mama with a motor?
I love that. Well, I called 9 attorneys who all just kind of threw up their hands and said they had no idea what I should do. And we went to the LAPD, who victim blamed my daughter and said, why would you take a picture like this if you didn't want it on the internet? And she was like tugging at her cap, trying to hide her face. She was so embarrassed. And then I called the FBI when I got home, and they initially said, just file a report online. And I said, oh, I see. You help Scarlett Johansson when she gets hacked, but you don't help the average person. And the operator sighed and said, just a minute, I'll transfer you to a detective. And I was then told that 3 agents would come to my house later in the month. But that was weeks away. And so I knew I needed to do something sooner than that. And in the meantime, my daughter noticed that one of her friends was also on the website. And so she talked to the friend, and the friend said she had been hacked. So here I was. I'd never heard of revenge porn. I only knew 2 people on this site, and they'd both been hacked. And so I thought there must be a hacking scheme. So I then decided I was going to reach out to 40 people. I kind of did this little survey, and I was going to contact these people to find out how they got on the site. And it was really hard because I couldn't use technology because I was scared there would be a hacker on their email or social media. So everything had to be done by telephone. So sometimes it would be, I'd see their last name, I'd see their town they lived in, and I'd start calling people with the same last name, saying, are you related to blah, blah, blah? Could you please have her call me? It was roundabout. It was really tedious. But I ended up speaking to all these different victims and found out that 40% of the 40 had been hacked. And I was also able to learn that the same hacker had definitely hacked some of them, as well as my daughter, because there was like this email address left behind. So luckily, I was able to give this data to the FBI when they did show up at the house. And it was like 12-inch pile of data by the time they got there. They originally said when they walked in the door that they didn't think they'd be able to take the case because they only take cases that involve large losses of money. And nobody had lost tons and tons of money. And they also said that if they did take the case, it takes over a year for them to conclude an investigation. But luckily, they took my data and they ended up agreeing to do the investigation. So they started working on it. In the meantime, I was counseling victims. To date, I've talked to over 500 victims about revenge porn or sextortion or morphed porn. And I feel like a suicide hotline.
What's morphed porn?
Morph porn is like deep fakes.
Like they put your head on someone else's
Your
body.
head on a porn star's body.
I know. I like to pretend I don't know certain porn genres. Just need certain credibility.
Normal stand-up guy, nothing weird.
Sextortion, what is that?
So, I'm not in the punk rock scene, so I'm not familiar with that band. boy, the FBI guys, they had to do the mama with a motor meeting at lunch, right? So I'm like, oh boy, we can't say no to this chick. She's
Good.
reams of evidence. So, did the website, Hunter Moore's website, was there a way for him to profit off of that, or was this just sheer deviltry?
Indeed, there was.
He was getting, he claimed he was making a lot of money, but actually really, based on the people I knew who analyzed it, like there was one of the victims' boyfriend was in the advertising business for porn sites, and he said he's not making more than $2,000 or $3,000 a month. He claimed he was making, I don't remember, like $15,000
Right.
or some huge amount of money.
But off blackmail, right? Like what?
No, he wasn't. I don't think.
Oh, from the
that was a different website.
Got it, 'cause
you
they were
got
saying-
posted was doing blackmail.
Thank you. They were saying we'll take it off. We're the ones who posted it, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
was
what
a
I
site in San Diego with another guy named Kevin Bolart. So that's a separate story.
Chris, Googling blackmails porn. Okay.
Careful how you spell it.
A lot of guys are getting a high hard one out there. I want you to look that shit up. See if we can
boy.
find that. So, you. So what is this guy Hunter's psyche other than just pure douche?
He's just filled with hatred. I think I believe he has low self-esteem. I disagree with you on that. I believe that he thinks that he's a bigger guy if he makes other people look bad. He does say he, wanted to get back at women because of some woman who dumped him. That's his claim. But I think he's misogynist, and he makes racist comments and sexist comments and anti-gay comments.
Oh, so it's not all bad. Even a broken clock is. What?
But he had legions, or at least he claimed,
yeah.
of dudes that worshipped him.
Oh yeah, and he loved the fame and the attention, and he was glorified in the media, and they were like, oh, such a cool business model, wow, look what he did, and we were, the victim blaming was serious at that time, so we were like, what's the matter with you, and why did those girls take those pictures? It's their own fault. I mean, that's what we were hearing from everybody. So yeah, and it was scary too, because his group was called the family. He was the father. They were the children. They used the Charles Manson language. People would post, I will kill for you, father. What do you want me to do? People, and when they found out it was me, I started getting the death threats, the computer viruses, and there was a stalker at my house, which was not even in the documentary. I have no idea why they left it out, but they did.
First off, I marvel at people's energy for stuff that just really is neither here nor there in terms of their bottom line or their bank account.
I have endless time and energy for this.
Yes, I'm
thing that doesn't benefit me anyway.
Going after this lady who's trying to protect her daughter because of what? Like, who did what? And the victims blaming and shaming, it's like we talk about on this show. It's like when people go, yeah, well, you go to Oakland, you leave your backpack on your car seat, and you're going to get your window broken. That's on you. And it's like, no, it's not. You're a victim. Somebody committed a crime. They broke your window. Mm-hmm. We should be trying to find the person and not saying it's your fault for leaving your backpack in your rental car. I fucking hate that. So there's also some pretty interesting shit I'm reading about you on this bio, but may tie into the haircut I got yesterday, which is... you had a 3-year romance with Tom Jones?
As a mom raising a teenager, I'm already concerned about my kid on the internet, and now Prop 27 would turn every cell phone into a gambling device, exposing millions of kids to online sports gambling. Please join moms across California. No, I'm 27.
Yes, I did. He was my first boyfriend.
And what's up with again? She's a lady? She's a lady?
Yeah, that's one of them.
And what's
Was New Pussycat?
Yeah, I was sitting in a Supercuts listening to She's a Lady.
Ah.
I never really had time to really examine that song, but during this time...
I don't know of the rest of the lyrics.
Well, it's simultaneously a kind of Helen Reddy, I'm a woman, hear me roar, and Zip It, the men are in charge. Because it's like... She does all this stuff, but she knows her place, and she's a tiger, but she doesn't talk. It's like this weird,
best kind of lady.
She's not lippy.
mixture of let me heap praise on her, except for her best quality, she knows her place.
Well, she's never in the way. Always something nice to say. Oh, what a blessing.
She's never in the way.
Yeah, it's a very sexist song. I totally agree.
It is that he praises her. It's a very backhanded.
This is a tough.
I was just
sell.
sitting there in that chair listening and went, I've never broken this song down.
This is the most poetic line of any song I've ever heard. Well, she never asks for very much, and I don't refuse her.
There are some words of praise in there, and again, she stays out of the way.
It's the best quality.
Yeah.
Yes, being invisible. What the hell? Tell us about Tom Jones.
Well, I was interested in him. I thought I was interested in him when I was 9 years old, and he was 29. And I was kidded about him at school, and people would put notes in my desk, I love you, love Tom Jones. And it was really embarrassing and horrible and humiliating. I had very low self-esteem as a kid. I was raised by adoptive parents, so my father was verbally abusive. My mom actually ended up committing suicide, but she was semi-conscious for 10 years, kind of in a convalescent home, and like kind of like that. Yeah,
boy.
I mean, she could like control half of her body, but not the other half, and didn't have any memory. And then my brother was killed in a car accident.
Oh.
So I had a really horrible, and I was raised in upper class Atlanta. And I was, very much a supporter of the civil rights movement, but my family were racists, and most of the people I knew were. So I was always the outcast. I was always the black sheep. I was always the different person. And thank God for the television, because that's where I first realized that everybody in the world is not like that. And so I became very interested in the entertainment industry at a young age, because I could see they weren't prejudiced. And they wore these really cool sequin dresses, which I loved, all the flashy clothing. And so, but I became very interested in Tom, and as crazy as that sounds, but I had very low self-esteem, and certainly didn't think I'd ever meet him, etc. And so years passed, and then when I was, and I get really dedicated to like one guy. I've only been interested in like 6 guys in my life, and it's always like the first time like my husband, I saw a video at a dating organization. That's the guy I'm going to marry. I saw like 5 minutes of him, and I know I'm going to marry him. So that's the kind of person I am.
Laser focus.
Yeah. So when I was 16, I went to a Jerry Lee Lewis concert in Atlanta at the Southeastern Music Hall. And I didn't even know who Jerry Lee Lewis was. The only reason I went is because I'd read an article that said that Tom's favorite performer was Jerry Lee Lewis. So I showed up, and they were sold out. And that was my first gate crashing, because I thought, well, I'm not going home. I'm getting in here. So I said, I'm here to apply for a job. And they say, oh, okay, go on in and go to the left and go to that office. So I just walked in, I went to the right, and I went and sat down in the front row of the auditorium. So I watched the show. And after the show ended, this white-haired man named JD came out and said, I think Mr. Lewis might like to meet you. Would you like to go backstage?
Oh, boy.
And so I said, sure, why not, whatever. So I went back, and the dressing room was kind of like this makeshift tent. It was like on the stage, in the back of the stage. And I talked to him for a couple of minutes. There were several people in there. And he said, well, I need to change clothes. You can either stay here or wait outside. I said, I'll wait outside. Thank you.
Jerry Lee, I know, but all right.
That's not the killer I know.
That's right.
So I went back to the audience area, which was completely empty now. And then this guy, JD, came out and sat next to me. And he said, Mr. Lewis would like to be in your company this evening. And I said, oh, well, I don't want to go out with him, but thank you anyway. And he said, he doesn't. All the girls want to go out with him. And then he said, well, who would you like to go out with? And so we started going down the list of all the popular sex symbols, like, John Travolta and, I don't remember, Sylvester Stallone and Robert Redford or whoever they were. And so I was like, no, I'm not interested. And then he said, well, isn't there anyone you'd want to go out with? And I was kind of like afraid to even mention Tom's name, because I'd been kidded and bullied about him for 10 years. And I went, well, I would like to go with Tom Jones. He goes, well, you can do it. You're pretty, and you seem like you have a nice personality, and Jerry Lee wanted to go out with you. And this guy changed my life. I was like, I'm going to do it. I was so excited. And I ran out of the hall. I said, thank you so much. I gave him a big hug. And I just he said, wait, don't you want to go back and see Jerry Lee? I said, no, I'm going to get a date with Tom. And I just ran out of the theater.
It sounds like a movie.
And I started plotting what I was going to do. And so then the next year,
Wait, hold on. He didn't have connections to Tom Jones.
Well, they knew it. They had met him and they knew him, but
he just said you were Tom Jones material.
He lit the fire.
He lit the fire. I guess he
But you
Yeah.
didn't get a contact
I'm with
from
you.
him.
No,
or
I didn't get a
anything. Just-
contact.
all
No.
right.
No, I just got the inspiration. In fact, I tried to contact this guy, I don't know how many years, 10 years ago or so, but unfortunately he had died like the year before. I was like
Yeah.
so sad. I wanted to
Killed
say,
by an angry
"You-"
husband. For sure.
So then I, plotted, what I was going to do, and I went to Vegas. Tom was performing at Caesars.
How old are you at this point?
I'm actually 17 at this point.
Mhm.
And so Tom did like 2 weeks at a time. And so I planned an entire week at Caesar's Palace. I got like the cheapest room, and I walked in the door and I gave the bellhop, I said, I gave him like $20. I guess that was a lot of money back then. And I said, I need to know what room Tom Jones is staying in. I need to know what time he goes to the dressing room, and I need to know what path he takes to get there. And so he takes me over. This is the room. He walks past here at 6:30 or whatever it was. And so I thought, thank you, So then I had made this costume in Atlanta. It was ridiculous because I'm 4'11". So I do not look like a showgirl with any stretch of the imagination, but I have these feathers and this sequin and this whole ridiculous thing made, silver boots. And so I planted myself. This was one of my ploys. I planted myself in the hallway at the right time, and I could hear Tom talking to a security guard coming in my door. So I just nonchalantly walked down the hall, and he stopped and he started flirting with me and talking to me. And I told him, I'm rehearsing my dancing, because he wanted to know why I was dressed so ridiculously. He didn't say that, and so I did things like that. I was trying to get. I met his parents on the trip. I got ringside seats every single night because I got to know the maitre d'.
Is he Welsh?
He's Welsh.
Yeah.
And anyway, at the end of the week, I got no date, right? And I called the dressing room, and his manager, Lloyd Greenfield, who was just a very nice guy, but very, hurt, and, he doesn't come off very friendly.
Warm.
Yeah, at the
Professional, I
beginning.
think is the word we're looking for in this
Has his
equation.
client's best interest in mind.
Not pimping
Anyway.
or being bought out.
I barely started a sentence and he just hung up on me. So I
Mhm.
started crying. I went up to Tom's suite. I sat outside the suite. The security guard sent me back to my room. I flew back to Atlanta, which is where I live. And then the next year I went to school. I went to school in the University of Florida. And that's when I found out he was going to be performing in Fort Lauderdale. So I started my ploys all over again. I called the theater where he was performing, and I pretended to be my own manager, and I said, Charlotte Laws, the winner of the Miss Georgia Beauty Pageant, will be in town doing some Maybelline commercials. She needs ringside seats at the Tom Jones Show and an introduction to Mr. Jones backstage. Yes, ma'am, no problem. I got a room next to his at the same hotel. And but I didn't need the room. I ended up sitting ringside. He remembered me. He sent someone out to get me. He invited me to dinner, discotheque. Went out the next night, and that was the beginning of 3 years. And I was totally in love with him, and it was, amazing.
Wow.
It was like a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
Oh God, there's a picture.
Achieve your goals.
Tiny.
I'm looking at you.
That's a great picture.
Who, Tom, was he 10 years older? at the
He's
time?
20 years
Oh,
older.
20 years old. Oh, because you were 9 and he was 20. That's right. I did the math.
So you've always been able to sniff out what you want and get it.
Well, persistence is the key to success. Yeah.
I will say, the first time you laid down and made sweet love with Tom Jones, you must have thought, I can do anything I want. Like, I was 9 years old watching this dude on TV. Now he's my boyfriend. Like, you must have.
I had more confidence, but I still never had, I was never cocky about any of it. I always felt like I really had to work for anything I wanted in my life. So.
Was
And
Tom,
I was a virgin, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to go through with it. The whole night we're at the disco, I'm going, oh my God, I got to make a decision. What am I going to do? The whole night I'm like panicky. And then Tom asked several times that night before, he's like, are you sure? You sure you don't want to go home? And, he was very gentlemanly, and, so yeah, he was my first.
Just so we're
Tom
super
Jones is
clear.
your first.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
oh,
Unbelievable.
yeah. Gina, should we compare and contrast your first?
Absolutely
To
not.
Charlotte's
No,
person.
no. It's the guy who put peanut butter in his dreadlocks, remember?
Yeah.
Albert Humperdinck?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So,
Now, Engelbert
he-
actually dropped his pants.
We've got our vision, and at Floor & Decor, there's so much to choose from. But with free design services, our budget and our time are well spent.
With our wide selection of products, all at everyday low prices, creating a space to match your taste has never been easier. Discover Floor & Decor today.
One time in front of me to try to get me to go to his house, and all I did is laugh at him, and I think he was embarrassed. He just put his pants back on, and then, you know. But yeah, that happened to me with Engelbert, but I never went out with Engelbert. But
Who would that work for?
I don't know. I think
That's
he
not
thought
the move.
I was going to get like excited. I
Watch
don't
to work. What else would you do?
Yeah.
He dropped the full frontal.
Yeah, he did.
Should have taken a picture and thrown that shit up on the internet.
Yeah.
This is before the internet.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is a
yeah.
long
Take
time
that
ago.
out.
Let's just say yellow names and tell a story. Burt Bacharach.
I've never met
Oh,
him.
So, are there other celebrities that we...
I haven't dated anybody romantically, but I've had a lot of friends, and I've had a lot of platonic dates with celebrities, and yeah, I mean, with different people.
I would imagine that the party crashing has
Yeah,
led to
and-
some
yeah,
notorious party crasher.
Yeah, so I did learn. I mean, back then when I was younger, I realized that crashing was a way to meet really interesting people. It was more fun than my friends going to the bar or going bowling or whatever they were doing. I was like, no, I'd rather hang out with the president or Michael Jackson or Lee Iacocca. You know, to me, it was more interesting. As I got older, I realized you can get interviews. You can walk around the Emmys and get like 30 interviews in one night instead of calling a publicist and getting to set up and waiting weeks and weeks. You know, so that was good. And then I learned you can get people signed on to causes, or you can lobby for legislation. I mean, we have a system where the rich people have all the control. They get to meet the president or the senators because they pay $100,000 to go to the fundraiser to lobby for whatever they want. But the ordinary people have no access unless you crash. Then you get the access, and then you get to talk to them, and they think you paid $100,000 to get in there.
Amazing.
Back to Tom Jones.
Oh my God.
You've got a one-track mind.
Did he break your heart? Did he leave you
Yeah.
for another woman?
He did break my heart in a sense. What happened was I was really actually was devastated for like a few years after. But what happened was we had a conversation about what would happen if I got pregnant, and I said I didn't believe in abortion for myself, and so he didn't say anything. And then the next day, his basically his publicist, John Moran, came up to me at Caesar's Palace. I was walking through, and he goes, Tom can't see you anymore. I just want you to know.
Oh.
And
After 3 years?
Yeah, and I was like, I totally against violence, but I went into one of the, and I was really like shocked that I did this, like one of the worst things I've ever done. I went into the conference room at one of the conference rooms at Caesar's Palace, and I threw glasses off a cart at the wall and broke like 10 glasses. And that to me was just horrifying that I did that, but I was really, and then years later, I kept like trying to get back with him, kind of like waiting, you know, a year and then contacting them. And then he did ask me out again, like maybe 4 years later, but I had a boyfriend, and so I wasn't.
She was dating Robert Goulet.
That's right.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
All right, Charlotte, you want to hang out while we
Sure.
go through some news with Gina?
Sure.
Oh,
do it.
hold on. Let me hit Solo Stove. That's right, man. This is a great item. I use it quite often. Last time I busted out on the 4th of July, made some s'mores. There's just something nice about a fire, especially a smokeless fire pit from Solo Stove. It's good for making moments and memories. Cooler weather's coming, so autumn's around the corner here. Solo Stove, smokeless, portable fire pits. It's stainless steel. It's designed, it doesn't have moving parts. It just has such a great design that it draws in the air from the bottom. You get lots of fire and very little smoke, and it just burns brilliantly. You can take it with you. It has a carrying case and everything. It's got a lifetime warranty and a 30-day free return policy. You're going to love this. I use mine all the time. It's Solo Stove, right, Dawson?
Prepare for your best outdoor memories yet and save big during Solo Stove's fall event. Plus, use promo code Adam at solostove.com for an extra $10 off. That's solostove.com. Promo code Adam for $10 off on top of the fall event deals. Hurry, the fall event ends November 10th.
All right, quick break. Right back with news after this.
Well, just to put a bow on this Tiffany Haddish, Aries Spears lawsuit thing, the child molestation lawsuit against them has been dismissed. The two comedians were accused of grooming and molesting 2 children, but now, according to TMZ, the plaintiff asked the judge to drop the case with prejudice. That means they cannot be refiled again. The unidentified woman who sued the two issued a statement saying, "My family and I have known Tiffany Haddish for many years. We now know that she would never harm me or my brother or help anyone else do anything that could harm us. We wish Tiffany the best and are glad that we can put this behind us." No mention of Ari Spears in that quote.
Took a long way to get there.
Yeah, the lawsuit, if you're not familiar, if you haven't been following up, stemmed from a skit that Tiffany and Aries did with these kids. The footage was deemed inappropriate, and it was I can't remember the name. It was like How to Be a Pedophile or something like that, and apparently it's all behind us now.
Well, then there's that whole Ricky Martin thing.
Yeah.
No, what
with his
happens?
nephew.
Yeah, do you guys know how that one ended?
Well,
No.
I think Ricky Martin's suing him now.
Yeah, and then the nephew dropped it or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
The whole point is that they get out there with this guy's a pedophile, or he beats his wife or something, or he's racist, or now they just use racist on everyone. And they throw it out there, and then several months goes by, and it's like, he's not.
Goes away.
But it's like, you kind of got it burned in that
And
there's
then
something going on
Ask me
here.
if I know who Ricky Martin is.
You know who Ricky
Oh,
Martin
that
is?
rapist who fucked his nephew?
Yeah, we tried.
Well, that's
Or
all I
something.
remember.
Yeah,
That's the only part I remember.
That's the problem when
Yeah.
they then go, it was really nothing.
Well, I'd like to point out that we did do our due diligence on this show and
Good.
wrap that up as well. So hopefully everything's okay with them. Speaking of your junk online, Tommy Lee was not kidding about launching his OnlyFans account. He has done it. He's the Motley Crue drummer, as you know. His page is at onlyfans.com/Tommy Lee, and fans can subscribe for a monthly rate of $19.99. So far, he has uploaded 27 pieces of media. He promoted the launch of the account with a trailer. Media.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the trailer he posted to bring one and all over to his site.
That was 80% archival footage and 20% one take Tommy.
Is there going to be dick pics?
Well, I have to think so. Remember, there was a big investigation launched to figure out who posted that naked picture of him, and then he realized in a blackout, oh yeah, he did it.
Well, look, I don't claim to know the man well, but I do know the man, and no sweeter guy.
Yeah,
he's
seems
a
like a nice
sweet
guy.
There's a lot of guys that are different, but he's sweet. But
Kind of like a youthful, I don't know how to describe it.
boyish
Boyish.
charm.
Yeah.
But I did go to his house to do his wife's podcast, and she was explaining to me that he was out golfing.
Oh.
And whenever I talk to these guys, and whenever I come up to someone's house in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, and find out that somebody is somewhere other than work, especially golfing, I always get super jealous.
Yeah.
But I think he's doing the math. He just can go home, take pictures of his chode, send it out, and then go golf some more.
Yeah, it's a
Which
good business
I
model.
would do
Sure.
as well if I
Sure.
had that kind of hog. You
Yeah.
know, he take a picture of your dick, and then you just go, play the back nine.
That's a good day.
That's a good day.
And I would understand, the very understanding wife.
Yes.
This is how you're making some money now. Look at you
Yes.
guys.
Tommy
Giving you a wet willy.
licking the side of my
He's a
face.
nice fellow. He's a nice guy.
He's a super nice guy.
Some piping hot Byron Allen news.
Really?
I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on right now, but he, media mogul, TV host, he's been given the green light by a judge to sue McDonald's for $10 billion. And this is really interesting. This might be interesting to talk to Garibus about, because the lawsuit accuses McDonald's of racial stereotyping by not advertising with black-owned media. He can sort of back it up. So listen to this. He accused McDonald's of relegating his Entertainment Studios Network Incorporated and Weather Group LLC, which owns the Weather Channel, by the way, to an African-American tier. That's a tiering system they have in the ad agencies, with a separate ad agency and much smaller ad budget, depriving them of tens of millions of dollars of ad revenue.
Byron Allen, I've just worked with him. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of him over the last month. People don't realize who he is. And
Mogul.
I won't get all of it right, but there's a certain we carve out stuff where, like, we want this many African American owned entities or businesses, or we will award this contract to this group over that group because they're underrepresented, whatever. He's understands all of it and fucking plays it all like a fiddle and just cashes in. I don't know. He's figured out that they are giving him. I know. I don't happen to like this. I don't like the affirmative action shit, but he understands it and he fucking plays it, and he's a cajillionaire.
Well, and yeah, he's a cajillionaire now who also could possibly be awarded $10 billion.
I'm gonna be nicer to him.
You should be. And I would have to imagine. I would hope Christy can't speak to this, but you never know. That I would imagine an African American tier doesn't really go into the email system. You know, I don't know that that's the official name for it.
No, it's probably diversity or whatever the nomenclature is for that agency. I'm sure the business model here is sue for $10 billion. Very small chance of winning, but walk away with a $10 million payout.
But the meaning behind it is they don't get as much money. They don't deserve it. They don't need it. That's not the clientele we're going after. They get relegated to a separate, smaller ad agency with a separate, smaller budget. And I think that's sort of what he's clinging to right now.
Yeah, I guess we do all this all the time, but the market. McDonald's is not trying to not make money, and they're not trying to be racist. They're trying to make money.
Yeah, they have the McRib. They want black people in the store.
That's right. And they want the Irish too, because they're the Shamrock Shake. Yeah, so they're all inclusive.
Well, he does make that point, saying they want black people to buy their product, but they're not putting the money back in.
Maybe they've decided that black people will buy and they no longer need to advertise it. Yeah. Like every time I see a commercial for In-N-Out Burger, I'm like, there is an In-N-Out Burger that is nestled where the 2 freeway and the 134 overpass, Glendale, whatever, it's down about 80 feet. And no matter what time I drive home, I look to my left and I see 45 cars going around the block. I mean,
employees out there with iPads, taking
right. You run commercials.
Why?
I love In-N-Out. I rarely eat it In-N-Out because the line is so long. I go, why do we need to get the word out?
Yeah, it's a good point. I actually just read an article about the quotes at the bottom of each bag and how they differ. There's like John 16. The quotes from J-Man. Yeah, the ones on the cup versus the ones on the fry bottom. Apparently because one of the family members, or it might have been the owner, he sort of found God, or he found Christianity very late in life, like right before he died, and this was something that he felt suddenly very strongly about. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Let's move on to the royals, shall we? Meghan Markle, not done with the royal family.
I hate her so much.
Getting very brave now that there's a regime change. She wants to clear the air with her father-in-law, with King Charles, before she leaves the UK. She's requested a one-on-one meeting. Royal reporter Neil Sean says Meghan made the request in a formal letter, and that the meeting will serve as an opportunity to put the rights from wrongs and explain some of the rationale behind what they've been doing the last 2 years. No word if the meeting's going to happen, but Sean called Meghan very brave. And of course, this comes after the funeral. And she walked with the family and they did the whole thing, and now she'd like to talk to Dad.
I like the other wife, Kate, what's her name?
Middleton, yeah.
Yeah.
She was born for this role.
And, like Tom Jones says, like, she knows her place.
That's right.
But she's not in the way.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think they got promoted.
Oh, she's the Duchess.
She's the princess.
Find that song. I was sitting at the Fantastic Sam's going, what the hell? Just digging into every lyric of that song, which I've never done before.
Somebody do this in karaoke, and it killed. Here's an interesting idea. The National Transportation Safety Board is asking the government to require all new cars to be equipped with a blood alcohol monitoring system that could stop a drunk person from operating their vehicle. The recommendation was made to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The report suggests that the technology could greatly reduce the number of alcohol-related crashes That's responsible for 30% of highway deaths in the U.S. And
Be
according to
really careful how you come out against this.
yeah, exactly. According to them, nearly 43,000 people were killed last year in alcohol-related crashes, the most in 16 years.
The ACLU should be against this. They're violating their civil liberty to drive drunk.
None of those people would have crashed anyway. Number one.
Interesting that, like, yeah, it's not just for
here's
what's
the
already
pushback.
happened.
I don't know what the pushback is, but here is the pushback. The government. The government is getting way over their fucking skis on everything. And so a lot of people are like, you want us to all have an electric car, and then you want us to, and there's even some legislation about, like, here's when you can use your washer, and here's where you can use your dryer, and here's what your thermostat could be at. But what if the government got to control the thermostat, or whether your car could run, or whether you were driving too much, or what are you doing charging during a flex alert? We can shut your car off from here. And that's the part.
It sounds like
it. Well, that's where we're at. I didn't want to get here, but there is some legislation about thermostats. Like, we need to have it controlled so that people can, during flex alerts and whatever. And it is slippery slope, but it's getting into what else do they know? What else do they have control over? What else do they have access to? And I'm not finding that they're being ultra responsible with their powers and their information and their control. That's what I'm not finding.
I mean, we have electricity crisis, and they want us to all have electric cars, and then they're saying, oh, well, don't charge it for the next week because we don't have enough electricity to go around. They say, oh, we want affordable housing, we want more people to come in, we want the migrants to come in, but we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough water, we don't have enough, electricity, we don't have enough of anything. Why do you want affordable housing? Why do you want more people to come in? You should be saying, hallelujah, people are leaving California. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, I thought you were going to say what you've said before, which is a 0.08 to one person is not the same as a 0.08 to another person.
Well, if you've got the heavyweight, designation, sure.
Right.
Yeah. No, there is, I mean, look, we all know people have a glass of champagne and shouldn't leave the house. And then we know the guys that can put away a few cold ones. But I would argue, they talk about the field sobriety test, but let's really do a field sobriety. Let's set up some cones.
Oh, like a shuttle drill.
Yeah, I think with a few cold ones in me, I could outperform most of my family members on a closed course with some cones. You know what I mean? So let's see who the real danger is.
Yeah, you could test out of having this in your car.
My grandmother, toward the end of her life, got into an accident every 4 days in her car. Like, her last 6 months of driving, she got into 11 accidents. Like, she shouldn't have had a license. But if you were behind her and you drank 3 beers, you'd be the monster.
Oh, you'd be in jail.
That's right.
And that's what I don't understand. Maybe I'll have a different perspective when I get there. I don't know. But don't you think you should have to retake your actual get in the car driving test at a certain age?
No. I think so.
I
Well, you're older than us, so you don't want that.
Well, at 75, you don't just want to double check that you have what it takes?
I'm fine.
I don't know what the age is, but I think in California, once you reach 70, 75, something like that, yeah, you do have to retake the driving test.
But it's such a nightmare to do it the first time. Why do you want to impose this on
It's the
people?
worst.
All right, one more, Gina.
All right, let's see. So there isn't, this is a couple days old, but so far there's no movement on it, so I really, really want to just put it on everyone's radar if you haven't heard it yet. Steph Curry, reportedly on the verge of signing a lifetime contract with Under Armour for $1 billion.
Underpaid.
Byron Allen wants a taste of that.
That's right. The news comes as Curry's current Under Armour deal is scheduled to end in 2024. According to reports, the lifetime contract would also include Curry receiving his own subsidiary
Can I just
brand.
say this?
Michael
Forget
Jordan.
about him.
Yeah.
And that the dollars. I grew up, Charlotte. I grew up in the Valley. For my entire life, it's just like $1 million. This was a $1 million home, or he signed to $1 million. He was paid $1 million to make a movie. It's like $1 million. Then we start going into this like, well, the government's printing $200 billion, and then LeBron James is getting $1 billion, and Steph Curry's got $1 billion, and Byron Allen's suing for $10 billion, and it's like, I'm a millionaire, and I feel like shit now.
What was it for?
It's fucking chump change. My entire life. It's like, he's going to be a millionaire one day, a millionaire. Now I'm a millionaire. No one gives a fuck.
All the real rich people are laughing at you.
I know.
It's sad.
And it's like you're looking at $1.2 million homes in Valley Village that need a roof.
That's exactly right.
You understand, we had $1 million was just the benchmark for the first 100 years, and then pow!
Yeah, now it's the entry level. Like every homeowner in LA is worth $1 million.
Yeah. If a house cost a flat $1 million, we could find a way to move in tomorrow.
And it's the symbolism that's fucked up too. And now my head is starting to swim. Like, he gets $1 billion. What does that even mean? Like, what does that just mean? You never have to work again? I mean, you'd have to fulfill the contract. But what I'm saying is we got here too fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was it started to trickle into, the guy has a $3 million house or something like that. Now it's just billions.
Yeah, that's because the gap has been widening between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
And so the rich have been just getting richer and richer, and during the pandemic, the rich got lots richer. And then you had these PPP loans, which were really just for forgiveness. And I know a lot of very wealthy people who got huge loans and were completely forgiven. So yeah, I mean, these people just racked it up during the pandemic and even before. So
yeah, I remember the '94 earthquake when we were still in the millions, but I was renting a house with two dudes in La Crescenta, and I would talk to people who owned a house, and FEMA paid to fix their pool and paid to fix it. And it's like, oh, you're getting a new pool and a new cinder block fence in your backyard, and I'm just still renting over here.
Poor schmuck.
Well, I had a house in Northridge during that earthquake.
Oh my God.
And we did have a crack in our pool, and the insurance company was extremely generous, and everybody I knew was like, please, another earthquake. I made so much money off of that earthquake. That's what people were telling me.
That's called the Northridge earthquake.
Yeah.
And every single cinder block wall fell over. And the way I made money from the earthquake is I came around and built dog-eared redwood fencing in all the people whose big cinder block walls tipped over during the earthquake. That's how I made my bonus.
Yeah, that's how you got rich.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news. Well, she never asks for very much, and I don't refuse her.
Gina.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Chris D'Elia's coming in tomorrow, so always a pleasure to talk to him. Charlotte Laws, man. Obviously, the Most Hated Man on the Internet's a very good watch on Netflix, and Undercover Debutante is the book. It's available now. Jewel, talk about a couple of dynamo women who've
awesome.
Both under 5'5", but packing a wallop. Freewheeling Woman, available on vinyl, October 21st, and the Foundation, the Inspiring Children Foundation. Well, go to AdamCarolla.com. Hollywood Improv Show's coming up on October 19th. Everything Reminds Me of Something, the name of the book. You can enjoy that as well. And until next time, this is Adam for Jewel and Charlotte Laws and Gina Grad and Paul Bryant. Say it. Mahalo.